Tonight I'd like to discuss the psychological phenomenon of the Folie à Deux, utilizing Chad and Lori Daybell as prime examples of this archetype. Now, Wikipedia, the arbiter of all information, defines Folie à Deux as follows: a shared psychosis, or shared delusional disorder, a psychiatric syndrome in which symptoms of a delusional belief and sometimes hallucinations are transmitted from one individual to another. In the book Games People Play, Eric Byrne, the creator of transactional analysis, wrote that for every game a person plays, there's another person willing to play it. And there is power, tremendous force inherent in as few as two people linking together in a shared mindset. Look at the New Testament Bible. Even Jesus said, "Whenever two or more are gathered in my name, I am there." I am there. And in the landmark technology, once you enroll even one new person in your possibility is alive and kicking. So it's a given that there is great creative power in two people working in tandem with a shared vision. And the term folie à deux is a way of designating when this kind of partnership is tragically and horribly flawed. Now, I don't know any of these people or pretend to know any of these people in any way, shape, or form. I am not a mental health practitioner, but I do have a number of years' experience on this planet. I have a First Amendment and a modicum of common sense. Everything I have to say is from open sources. The book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 20 states, "By their fruits shall ye know them." And even after all these centuries, that's still a pretty good place to start. You know, sometimes I think this whole case has been pumped up as a kind of psyop to make religious people look bad, as that would certainly support the agenda of the anti-religious forces that are vying for control of these United States at the moment, but I digress. Let's look at Lori and Chad and try to figure out how things could have gotten so out of hand. Lori had already been married 4 times by the time she entered Chad Daybell's orbit. That's a lot of failed relationships. That's a lot of not wanting to be alone, and I'm not being judgmental here. I myself have been married 3 times, and I can speak from experience that I haven't not been in a relationship for more than 2 weeks since I was 18 years old. And that's because I craved security and I didn't want to be alone. And somehow there was something attractive enough about me to always have a man willing to play my game with me, whatever that was at the moment. I think we can sort these things under the category of codependence, and this is, for the most part, normal human nature, really. Lori was a devout Mormon displaying a tremendous amount of religiosity. She was obsessively interested in spiritual things, while working very hard at what Landmark would call looking good. Being the perfect mom, having the perfect home, maintaining the perfect physique, and being really good with makeup. She even entered a beauty contest and made it pretty far in the competition. I would venture to say that she wanted to stand out as special. And of course, we all want to be recognized for our talents and achievements. But when you start believing that you have a special dispensation, that is delusional. And when you start acting out in service of that special dispensation that you believe you have because you are delusional, then tragic, horrific consequences can result. And so, because hindsight is always 20/20, and because the best we can do with this sad story is to try to make it kind of a cautionary tale, let us postulate that Lori had a burning desire to be special. And that latent need for exaltation was potent enough for Chad Daybell to trigger and ignite. Now, let's take a look at Chad. His story is that he has had 2, not 1, but 2 near-death experiences, the result of which left him very close to the spirit world. He worked as a gravedigger, so he spent a lot of time in cemeteries. He claimed to hear the voices of the deceased, namely, the spirits would talk to him. This is called necromancy. Let's look at the definition of necromancy, which the Bible rails against. Necromancy, noun, the practice of supposedly communicating with the spirits of the dead in order to predict the future. Noun, black magic, sorcery. Noun, magic qualities. Okay, this is kind of like a Ouija board. What the heck is coming at you through the Ouija board? Nothing good comes out of it. If you see someone coming at you with a Ouija board, run away. Now, of course, there are angels and good positive voices we hear. So how do we tell the difference? We're supposed to test the spirits. So how do you test the spirits? With the Word of God, or at least with a basic general discernment between right and wrong, which for someone having lived in civilized society for 40 plus years, you would think one would have. So Chad Daybell communicates with the dead, which would make him very special indeed. And he writes books about his experience, and he becomes a prophet of sorts and creates an entire worldview and spiritual system. I don't see any reason why this would not be considered a cult. Chad publishes books, his own and others, and his own family rejects him for being heretical. Now, his family has tested Chad's spirits, and they failed the test of the LDS Church. And the LDS Church doesn't even pass the test of biblical Christianity, but that's another story. Chad has issues with his own authors because what Chad writes or wants to put in their books is too far out. But Chad continues to do his own thing, apparently getting enough energy from like-minded people to keep the momentum going. Chad's long-suffering wife, Tammy, apparently believed in Chad's ability to commune with the dead. So Chad used the alleged messages of Tammy's deceased grandmother to manipulate Tammy into doing whatever Chad wanted her to do. She just took these alleged messages at face value. The perfect, obedient Mormon wife. So Chad's pipeline to the spirit world made him special, and his ability to manipulate people with this gift made him special. Or, going a little bit deeper, Chad's ability to manipulate people through their belief made him special. Chad wasn't getting many people telling him, "Go away, you're a charlatan." Or if they did, it didn't matter. Enough people continued enrolling in his program to keep his momentum going. Lori had been married to Charles Vallow for, I believe it was 14 years. It was by far the longest of Lori's relationships. And by all accounts, he was a man of integrity, and he always did his best, and he worked very, very hard to keep Lori happy. And because she was a devout Mormon, he converted from Catholicism to LDS in order to be able to marry her. Throughout most of their marriage, Lori was embroiled in a custody battle with husband number 3, Joseph Ryan, who is now deceased. The custody battle was over their daughter Tylee, who sadly also numbers among the deceased. The custody war ended when Joseph Ryan passed away. Now that the enemy, Joseph Ryan, was gone, Laurie had to find another source of turmoil in her life, which was always full of some kind of drama. Even her best friend, Melanie Gibb, noticed that there was always some kind of drama going on in Laurie's life. And why drama was the norm in Laurie's life, why she always had to keep some sort of drama going, is another topic to explore. But usually there's some sort of trauma attached to that. So with the custody battle over, Laurie could no longer be content with Charles, who'd been such a staunch ally against the evil Joseph Ryan. Charles had been willing to convert to LDS, but he wasn't that spiritually minded. You know, there's this thing about being equally or unequally yoked. Well, she felt unequally yoked. And Laurie wanted more of what she wanted, and that is the nature of compulsion. When you're driven by compulsions, you cannot be deterred, and I speak from experience on this. It's like an addiction. It is an addiction. It can't be reasoned with. It's not logical because it's rooted in emotion. And beneath the emotion, it stems from dopamines, hormones, and the chemical soup inside our brains. This chemical soup is why we do the things we do. Mind control programs like MK Ultra capitalize on this very basic fact of biology. So Laurie is still married to Charles, but she's really captivated by the worldview constructed by Chad Daybell, with the help of the spirits he communes with, who may very well be demons, whether or not he made the whole thing up by himself. Still came from demons. So here's Chad at yet another convention, sitting at a booth, selling his books, when along comes this blonde hottie who is all in on his belief system. She's all in. So he can tell her that they've already been married 5 times on different planets or whatever. He can tell her that she's an exalted being and there's a plan for her to help harvest the 144,000 or whatever. Chad can tell her that she's special because that's what she needs to hear. And because he can give her what she needs, being with him becomes what she needs, and nothing else matters. And as for Chad, Laurie is giving him what he needs, the ultimate invalidation. Sure, Tammy may have gone along with his program. She may have obediently done what the spirits told Chad to tell her to do, but for whatever reason, she wasn't enough. She was never going to be the Hillary to his Bill, the Bonnie to his Clyde. But Laurie, despite whatever misgivings she might have had divulging to her friend Melanie Gibb, if Chad is Satan, then he's a great Satan. She would be Chad's partner, soulmate, and counterpart, devoting her whole life to fulfilling the plan. A plan that has now claimed the lives of Charles Vallow, a good man, a loving husband and father, and sadly, now it's confirmed, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow, innocent children. Tammy Daybell continues to be a suspicious death, still waiting for her autopsy. Alex Cox, Laurie's brother and henchman, continues to be a suspicious death. Joseph Ryan continues to be a suspicious death. And there are ways to take people out that can appear to be natural causes. It's just eerily coincidental that everyone who ever posed a problem to Laurie is now suspiciously deceased. So these have been my personal ponderings on the Chad and Laurie matter, looking at it from the viewpoint of the Folie à Deux. Theirs was not the first, and it will not be the last. Lest there be any misunderstanding, to forward an armchair theory about unconscious compulsions like the ones that led to this tragedy does not excuse any criminality. We are all wired roughly the same way. We are all subject to delusions of some kind or another. We've all done stupid things. We've all been taken in. We've all done things we regret. We've all had things blow up in our faces, but just not on such a grand scale. This whole situation with Chad and Laurie and the rest of the cast of characters is so huge, so Shakespearean, so utterly epic in every respective fail that it could serve as textbook material for teaching how to recognize red flags. And recognizing the red flags is really, really, really important. That's all I have to say for today. As always, After Arts out. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, I'd be delighted to have you. Your support will help keep the content fresh and always evolving. Thanks again for your support. After Arts out.